धंधा पे खड़ा कर दो, नहीं करने चाहता तो मारो तो। बोला धंधा नहीं करेगा तो बेच देगा ही करेगा। अच्छा जब अभी लेकर आए तो 5-6 महीने तक अंदर रखे अंदर, डर से किया, बेच देगा तो देगा बस। Age? 22.
You're 22 years old.
हम लोग बहुत गरीब हैं। वो औरत को मैं बोला, मतलब हम लोग छोटा एक का काम करते थे हम लोग दूसरा का घर पे। तो औरत क्या बोला, मेरा लड़की भी बॉम्बे में रहते, 5,000 रुपये महीना देते। तो हम लोग गरीब है, 5,000 बोले तो बहुत है। तो हम बोला ठीक है हम जाएगा। तो उधर जब भी लेके आया तो देखा एक 14 गली में कमाटीपुरा में लेके आया। तो मैं बोला मैं नहीं करूँगी, मेरे को ट्रेन में बैठा दो, मैं चले जाऊँगी घर। तो मेरे को बहुत मारा था लोग। तो जो औरत के पास मेरे को छोड़ के गया, वो औरत मेरा ऐसा हाथ पकड़ा था, उसका लड़की मेरा पैर पकड़ा था, वो कस्टमर मेरे पास ज़बरदस्ती बैठा था। 3 महीना मेरे को जे हॉस्पिटल में दिखाया, 3 महीना।
So it is run by gangsters, this area. You can see lots of men standing at the side and they're all pimps. They stop taxis for the customers and they will bargain through the taxi. You'll see the guards on the doors and every layer, because some of the buildings are a few stories high, there's guards on every floor and there's watchers even sitting on the roofs. With one girl being trafficked, there's about 25 people involved. And once they're trapped, they could never get out. There's so many people watching and everybody knows their movements.
जो पुलिस के पास जाना चाहिए, तो पुलिस के पास गया, मैं कंप्लेंट करने गया, मेरे को ही अंदर डाल दिया। तो मैं इधर चेंबूर में 3 महीना था। जो घर वाला है वो मेरे को 60,000 ज़मीन में मेरे को छुड़ाया, क्या ज़मीन में छुड़ाया मैंने। बाद में फिर वो रखा, वो भी 3 साल पैसा खा गया।
आपके आगे की जिंदगी के लिए क्या आशा है तुम्हारे पास? क्या तुम्हारा सपना
है तो बहुत कुछ मगर क्या करूं?
She has a lot of dream but I could not do it.
मैं भी चाहता है मेरा घर हो, कोई अच्छे से रहो, अच्छी जगह में काम करूं।
I wanted to be good home and my family should be with me, all that.
कर्जे का चले जाते ना, कर्जा खत्म होगा चले जाते। अभी मेरा पूरा कर्जा खत्म हो जाएगा, मैं चले जाऊंगी।
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and tell the story of the girls who are in India. So I have been going to India for the last 11 years. To make this book, Taken, I went undercover as an aid worker, working with a charity that's worked in the area for over 23 years and had incredible trust. A lot of their workers are actually former prostitutes themselves and former gangsters. And really this work is a body of evidence, and everything you just saw shot was shot undercover. I was hiding in the back of brothels and on the roofs for months on end to slowly gather evidence. And I based on gathering it on the stories and the interviews of the many girls that I interviewed, and they would tell me of the areas of Kamatipura, and I would literally gather it as gathering evidence over time. And the reason I got incredible access is because my fixer was a former criminal himself, street boy. He was in one of the gangs, and his mother was a temple prostitute in the area. So he knew all the secrets of the area, and he unlocked the secrets to me and exposed, really, the darkness to me. This is Kamatipura. It's made up of just 5 lanes. In that area, in those big bungalows, which have been there since the British Raj, there are over 20,000 girls estimated, maybe even more. There's about 8 to 10 girls to a brothel and hundreds of girls in one building. I think this looks like a cage from above. This is not a place of pleasure. This is a place of pain. This is the heart of Kamatipura. This is where all the taxi drivers come to bring the customers. If you see to the left, this little hut, that's the police station. They do nothing. Actually, not only do they do nothing, they fight to be in the area, because this is where they make the most money. They compete. They take bribes, and in that video, you actually saw a policeman paying. I got evidence of the police constantly, and every day I saw them getting their money from the pimps. There's actually holes in the roofs of these buildings, and the police, if their bribe has been paid by one of the madams or pimps, will give a warning if there's going to be a raid to one of the brothel owners, and the children will be pushed up the holes in the roof, or hidden in hidden rooms or trapdoors. The area is a gangland. This is one of the most dangerous criminals in the area. Everyone fears the gangsters, and every lane is run by different gangsters. I was a witness of daily flights. It was very interesting. Different gang working in a different lane. It is completely a lawless place, which, may I add, the politicians and the police continue to thrive, allowed to continue to thrive. So how did I end up going to Kamatipura? Well, 11 years ago, I read a story of a little girl by a charity here called Jubilee Campaign, and they had a magazine. I read a story of a little girl who was 9 months old who was sold to a brothel for £150. And I couldn't believe that in this day and age, a baby was being sold to a brothel. So I went to India to see if this was true. And I did a story of looking into children born into sex slavery. This little girl is wandering the corridors while her mother is working. But the sad thing is the children are normally prostituted pretty much by the age of 8 or 9. And virgins come at a premium. It's a business, as you said earlier. It's all about money. It was when I did this story that I heard something even more tragic. I learnt that not only were children being born into sex slavery, I learnt that girls were being trafficked from all over India. And not only were they trafficked, but being held in cages for months, sometimes years. And all the years that I've been there, like the wall that this little girl is leaning on, behind that wall, the reality in those brothels is there's hundreds and thousands of girls that are being held in cages against their will. I'm just going to get some water. This is Goody. You've just seen the film about her. I met her 4 years ago on my investigation. I met her because she came into the charities clinic completely distraught. I was speaking to one of the charity workers, and I was captivated by her beauty, thinking, how can this girl belong in this place? She looks like a Bollywood star. And I learnt of her story. She lifted up her salkamis, and she just explained what had happened to her. She'd been beaten by one of the gangsters. She had had money lent to her. And they lent the money. She took the money so that she could start a new life, but it's their way of keeping them entrapped, debt bondage. They beat her so severely that she lifted up and showed me her legs, and they were black and blue. And that was the day I met Goody, and we entered each other's lives, and she has been incredible. She understood why I was there and wanted to open up the truth and really see what her life was like in Kamatipura. She was taken, as you saw in the film, at 11 years old, tricked by her neighbor, her mum's friend, who promised her work. She didn't even know a red light existed. She didn't know a place like this. She had no idea of a place like this. She said when she arrived, they dragged her in a brothel. She was raped so violently, as you saw in the film, that she was in hospital for 3 months. And this is her corner. This is her prison. She stands here every day. Every day I would see her. She's out at lunch. She's out in the evening. She has to work hard because of this debt bondage that hangs over her. So here she is, taking money from a customer. There's one thing that has bothered me for years and years over these 11 years, and I've always wondered, my question is, would the men come to these brothels if they knew they were not choosing to pay for sex, but paying to rape a slave? Goody's a fighter and a survivor. She's only survived because she's fought. You saw her fighting the customer. People are always very confused by this, but she's fighting and she doesn't look like a victim. She's fighting because the customers abuse her, treat her like nobody. They rip her off, they beat her. The only reason she's alive is because she's fought. She's had to fight. The thing is even though she fights for herself, she's still under the control of a pimp. She has to pay him to protect her. And she has to work hard, not only to give money to him and his family, but also the gangsters, the moneylenders have kept her into debt bondage. She would often break down with me. She would often drown her sorrows and go to the pub. This is actually in the bar. She's desperate to get out, but also, as Cyrus explained, it's complicated rescuing these girls who've been held in slavery for so long. One day, I convinced her to come to the charity's home. They have a rehabilitation home, which also has vocational training. And it's a safe house, away out of Mumbai, deep in the countryside. And I convinced her to come with me, to come and see this place. And I really learned something. I thought, great, we can rescue her. We can save her. We took her out to this place. I wanted to go and show her one of the bedrooms where she would live. We approached the building and she suddenly had a panic attack. She ran into this mango grove. I literally ran after, not understanding what was going on, and she wept. And then through a translator, because I had someone there, she explained, she just kind of was trying to explain she couldn't go in the building, and then I realized she thought we were going to cage her. She thought we were going to hold her against her will in that building. She was too scared to trust. She's too broken, she's too traumatized. This is only the life she knows. So her story carries on. She's still in the red light district. The charity are really working to work with her. But they've told me it sometimes takes years to rescue these girls. And all hats off to them. They're incredible. They believe they keep going for years trying to rescue each girl. Everyone matters. So I've talked about the cages a lot. I have heard many girls tell me of these places where they're held deep inside these brothels, in these little cages where they can't move, and some of them haven't seen daylight for up to 5 years, one of the girls. They didn't know if it was day or night. They'll only be brought out to see a customer or to eat. Then one day, my fixer said to me, come with me. He didn't really explain. He just told me, hide your camera under your scarf, do not look at anyone, and follow me. And he started to guide me through the dark labyrinth, which I will call a dungeon of a big brothel house. I could not see where I was going, up and down through stairs. The walls are literally slimy with heat. Eventually, we get to a small corridor, and at the end, I see a giant cage door. My fixer makes a code call, a woman comes to the door, and like a jail keeper with her keys, she unlocks this cage door, and I walk through. And then I'm standing in a little room, which I realise is the reception area that the customers come. My fixer disappeared, comes back, and just says, "Come." Takes me through to a number of other rooms, and then points to the ceiling, to this hole. A ladder is pulled up, and I stick my head through this hole. This is a hidden trapdoor in one of the brothels. This is a very rare picture. You're looking at a box cage. It is no higher than this. This is what the girls have described to me for years. They cannot move in this space. And after so many years, I'm facing it myself, and I see the truth, that this is true. There's evidence. These horrors really exist. Slavery is a reality. So, the last time I saw Goody was actually back in April. It was the last time I was in India. And the last time I saw her, I find it very hard saying goodbye to her, because I never know if I'm going to see her alive again. This time I begged her to leave. I begged her, please go to the rescue home, please trust, please. And she just wept in my arms for a very long time. She soaked my salkamis with her tears. And I will never forget feeling her heartbeat against my chest and thinking how precious this life is. And it was at that moment that she said to me, when I begged her to leave, she said, "Sister, my life." And I said to her, "Please, if you don't leave, you're going to die here." And she said, "But my life was taken when they brought me here." This book is named after Goody. And that is why her face is on the cover. For 11 years, I have seen the horrors and the reality of a red light. The sounds, I've heard stories of torture. It's hell on earth. No human should be left in a place like this. What's awful is I've learnt, as Monique said, and it was shame, that this is a British legacy. Kamatipura is one of the components, one of the military bases that the British would actually procure pretty young girls. We found documents from the 1800s where they're asking for memos, asking to procure pretty young girls of 12, 13, 14 for the British military. People were paid to get the girls on a British salary, on British taxes. And that's what's really sad, is I've always wondered why there are cages in this place, because they're old. These are old buildings. And then we found out these cages were originally built to protect the girls back in the 1800s, because people were fighting to get the pretty girls. They're now being used to enslave the girls in darkness, unseen and unheard. On returning from my last trip, I was handed a book called The Queen's Daughters in India. And it was about two women who in 1892 went undercover as missionaries, aid workers, just like me. That's 120 years ago. Two women did exactly what I did. It went to Parliament. It was talked about. I want to read something from the book, and I wept when I read these women's words. This is what they wrote at the end. We have felt the beating of their hearts against our own. We have heard stories and sobbed with agony of betrayed innocence. We have seen hopeless woe in the eyes that will haunt us forever. Again, nothing has changed in 120 years. And in a way, that's a lie as well. The truth is, it's got worse. So I read that book, as you can understand. I had a similar experience as those women, What is sad is reading the testimonies and the case studies that these women wrote up, they're the same stories. Fathers selling their children, women tricked, enticed, tortured, lied to. My last memory of India right now, and when I look at this, I am a bit emotional because I remember her heartbeat against my chest and I remember her eyes. And I want you to look at that poster because Goody doesn't just represent the girls in India, she represents the girls around the world. There are many girls who are not being heard, and boys. I'm not going to leave out the boys. Many girls and boys who are not being heard, who are hidden in darkness, hidden away, and we have to be their voice. And I know I'm in a room with people who have the same passion, and I am so glad we're all here together, and I believe together we can bring change, and we can be a voice for these girls. So thank you.